we greet you all in the blessed name of our risen Savior. Thank God for everyone that have come, and remember those who are unable to come. Now, you realize today there is a special weekly addressing the Christian perspective of COVID-19. I'll ask you to turn to the center spread. To turn to the center spread of the page. Now, by the way, this article has been translated by Deacon Ken Hao into Chinese for Emmanuel BB Church, and Elder Berlin is translating it into Tamil for the church in India and Sri Lanka, and also our Tamil churches here. And we address a few practical things. I just want to highlight the 4 F's under the center spread. How should we respond as redeemed people of God whose everlasting arms undergird us? Consider the following 4 F's. So there are 4 F's which as I was praying through, I spent much time in researching and in thinking through what should be the Christian response. I think first of all, find out the facts. There's a lot of false information going around, creating fear and paranoia. So don't be overly obsessed with it, and life goes on as normal. But know the facts, take the precautions, and verify it if you need to, and check with medical experts and be vigilant. Don't be alarmed by those who spread rumors and half-truths. That's the first thing, the intellectual aspect, the knowledge of it. Secondly, face the crisis fearlessly. I think there's a sense in which we don't want to be caught up with a sense of phobia that we cannot live life as what God wants us to. There must be vigilance, discipline, and determination, and not an obsession or phobia in the strength and grace of the Lord. No fleeing from the danger. Confront it, resolve it, and act in the wisdom of God. So the virus outbreak has brought the best and maybe the worst in some men who bravely sacrifice their time and for the sake of others. And something we've been encouraged, and I pray that we'll be those who stand up and be a testimony and witness for the Lord wherever we are, and to continue to pray for those who are going through this. Now, thirdly, something practical. Fortify your faith and body. Now, realize there are 2 things. First is to strengthen your faith, and secondly, there's a duty for us to fortify our bodies too. So all the washing of hands, all the keeping yourself in good condition, your immune system, and making sure that you have sufficient rest and water and exercise. I think this is the time for us to be responsible, to know what we believe, why we believe, and to take care of ourselves bodily as well, and as a church. And finally, I think focus is everything. Focus is fix your eyes upon Jesus, not on the virus, not on all these things going wrong, but keep your eyes on Christ in the midst of the danger. When Peter's eyes was on the Lord, he could face the danger of the waves. But when he looked at himself and the waves, he fell into the water. I think we need to get our right focus in life. So you read the rest for yourself. There are other thoughts I shared, and I think we pray that it will help some people along the way. Today our study is on the book of Joshua, and Joshua chapter 9. By now, Joshua has led the people of God right all the way past Jericho, past Ai, the water battle after a little hiccup when Achan stolen something, and the Lord wanted them clean up the house, clean up the camp, and he was found stealing things that don't belong to him, that belongs to the Lord. The victuals of the first battle is the concept in Leviticus of the first fruits, where they fought the first war, and they won. The Lord said everything is to be given to the Lord, and someone decided to keep it and put it in his own pocket, and they were defeated. But they came back, and God gave them second chance. So they came back and fought, and they won, and that's wonderful. And now they're at the verge of their southern campaign. So they're going to come down south, because when they cross Jericho is in the north, River Jordan, and they're now coming down Ai. So you realize that in verse 1 of chapter 9, all the enemies are all ready to fight a big battle. But someone decided, instead of fighting them head on, they're going to do something else to get themselves into the good books of the Israelites. So today we'll talk about the danger of being friendly with the enemy. And I'll speak of the 3 Ds, as you can see from your PowerPoint slide. First of all, we'll speak of the dangers of the enemy that can be deceptive. We'll elaborate a bit on that, which is important. Secondly, we'll consider the danger that the enemy can be destructive. And later I will just also add the word, they can be disruptive, which they did to the people of God. And finally, we want to end with the thought that the enemy can be defeated. And we want to know the way forward. How do we go about doing this? So let's look at the first segment, the enemy can be deceptive. Now, as you look at verse 2, instead of fighting the nation of Israel, someone decided that why not we do something else? The Gibeonites, the people of Gibeon, they decided to come up with a different strategy. It was a very cunning, crafty plan. In verse 4, they did wildly or worked wildly and went and made as though they were ambassadors and took old sacks upon the asses and wine bottles, and rent is broken, and bound up and get them ready, old shoes and everything on their feet, old garments and moldy bread and everything, and come to meet the people of Israel. Now, deception comes in three ways and also in three W's. First of all, the use of deceptive vows. Second, the use of deceptive wares. And thirdly, the use of deceptive words. So that's a sub-point I didn't put out on the PowerPoint. So let's start with the first one, deceptive vows. One of the things the enemy does, in the book of Ephesians, the Bible used the word, put on the full armor of God that you'll be able to withstand against the wiles of the evil one. What is this word wiles in English? W-I-E-L-E-S. The word wile has a sense of cunning, crafty, deceptive, a trickery. You know? When you say that, wow, this is a wily person. So this person is full of deception and falsehood. So firstly, we realize the use of deception through a wily plan, a plan of trickery. So they actually concoct a way in which they can get into the system where they don't have to fight Israel. Because they said, we heard that you're so powerful, you destroy our this big brother Jericho. But Jericho is the enemy to fight with, and they destroyed the fortress. They broke down the walls and everything. So that this is tremendous. Your God led the people to the Red Sea. We heard about what you did to Egypt, and the armies died in the Red Sea, and you could come all the way here. There must be something about you. We're not going to fight you. You know, it's one thing to fight an enemy onwards, but it's another thing where they win you in another way, which is by deception, falsehood, and lies. And actually, that to me is a more frightening part. Wildly plan of the evil one. Are we a stranger to that? Well, in the Garden of Eden, somebody was told not to eat of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, and then the serpent came. Has God really said that? Wow, that was a very seductive, very attractive, and the lady fell for it. And actually, we fell for it too. In many ways, we'll be deceived by Satan. Don't worry, you can do this, it's okay. Nobody will know. Nobody's around, you're overseas. Just do it. I said, really? Yeah, just try it, it's good. And now you're in the office and they say, well, let's do something, to the figures, of the accounts. Oh, sure. The authorities will not know, and then this would help the company too. And somebody said, let's help you with some marketing strategy. What marketing strategy? Oh, we can do something to sell our product. You don't have to tell them everything. You can tell them something, and some things it's not necessary for you to say everything about our product. We may not have the best product, or we may have the best sales strategy. So that's how people work, and selling property and all kinds of things. And so that's a wildly plan. Secondly, not just deceptive vows, they are deceptive wares. W-A-R-S. What do you mean by deceptive wares? Just now we mentioned that they use old shoes and old sacks and old clothes, And they even say, we took hot from our provision from the house, in verse 12. And these bottles of wine, we feel it is for you. Our garments, they become so old by reason of the very long journey, in verse 13. Not only deceptive vows, we have deceptive wares. So sometimes the enemy come in a very, clothed in a certain, attire. It's interesting that when we are in Chile, and Peru, I was finding out from our pastors and missionaries that I said, how is the witnessing and the work here? He said, it's not easy. There are tribes that still practice shamanism. You know shamanism? Shamaman. It's actually African witchcraft. So I'm not aware of it. I've never been to that part of the world before. So this was my first time there, and we were in Peru first before I went to Chile. So somebody told us, actually, well, it's still present. We still use shamanism and superstition and worshipping to the spirits and the gods, and they have also compromised. The greater part of Latin America belongs to the Roman Catholic faith. Chile is 64% Roman Catholic, 14% Protestant. And they have mixed the religion. It's an eclectic approach. So they mess it up together, so sometimes it's quite confusing. When I look at the painting on the walls, it's actually quite strange to me. And they have married two different religions into one. And so the pastor said, yeah, that's the challenge we have. And people can come, they dress in a very attractive manner. I remember many years ago, I read in the newspaper, there was a lady that was featured. She works in Shenton Way, and she's called a life coach. Have you heard of a life coach? So they will interview her and say, oh, I help people with problems, marriage problems, life goals, depression. I said, good. What are you training? So she said, oh, I'm training different things. I have a degree in psychology, I do mythology, and I also know shamanism. She's from New Zealand. So she said, yeah, we have all different, depending on what is needed, we have different ways we can help people with their problems. I remember Jo Rowling had a degree in mythology at Exeter University, and she wrote Harry Potter. Very, very intelligent lady. Has done a lot of harm to young people through this very deceptive, book about this person in the school of Hogwarts and all the wizardry and witchcraft and spell casting, and people still love it today and deceived by it. Deceptive wares, and finally, deceptive words. Deceptive words are one of the most effective ways Satan used. When Satan used words to cause us to stumble and to fall. When we were speaking at Arica BP Church, we were early, so we took some tracts, and some of us went to the entrance to give out tracts to invite people in. And when we went up to the entrance, there were already two people standing in the opposite side of the road. So later I asked the pastor, Jim Beals, I said that there are two persons giving out some kind of a tract or pamphlet as well. I said, Jack, they are from the Jehovah's Witnesses. Sunday morning, they station themselves at key points before people reach their church. They give up their JW and the watchtower, and they get them to go to the Jehovah's Witness church, and they would explain to them and talk to them. I said, wow, this is really, they're more zealous than us. By the time we come up, they're already there half an hour before our service starts. And they are well stationed at the corner because people who come have to come by that particular corner. I said, wow. When we were waiting for our somebody to pick us from the airport, we were there for about slightly more than half an hour. We walked around and I saw a booth. Same thing, there were two ladies, and the booth was also run by the Watchtower Society, which is the Jehovah's Witness group. And they were peddling their tracts and pamphlets, and so I found from the pastors, it's very, very prevalent in Chile. Mormons, Jehovah's Witness, and another local cult group that's been drawing away people from the church. We live in deceptive times. Before the coming of the Lord said, beware that false teachers and false prophets will come into our midst to deceive and to cause people to go astray. Now, what is the greatest deception? Deception is mentioned many times in the Bible. Let's turn our Bibles to Hebrews chapter 3, verse 13. Hebrews chapter 3, verse 13. What is one deception? It's a deception that is used in a noun form. And Satan used this very powerfully. And sometimes we can fall into this trap. And in verse 12 and 13, to give you the context of Hebrews 3:12, Take heed, brethren, lest there be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief in departing from the living God. But exhort one another daily, which is, while it is called today, lest any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. It's interesting. Sin has a way which is described by the author of Hebrews. He used the word deceitfulness of sin. Are you trying to say that sin promises us something, a certain pleasure, but later end up to be deceptive? Isn't that true? Sometimes we are promised, if you do this, you get this reward. Or you really enjoy yourself. It's a wonderful, you must do this. It's nice. Having worked with drug addicts, they always say that when they take that chasing the dragon, as they say, the feeling is so nice. But it lasts only about a minute or two. And they think that this will last forever. After that good feeling for 1 minute or two, now it's payback time. Now it's all the cravings, all the physical, dimension of the withdrawal symptom. So Satan promised you something through sin, but sin doesn't pay in the end. The police department recorded there are many romantic scams now on the internet. Sometimes you wonder, people fall so easily in these love scams. They promise you, I'm so and so, I'm 20 years old, and I'd like to meet you, and we can get along together, and I just need a little bit of money. Can you send me some money? Oh, sure, because I want to meet her or him. And then I'll send the money, we'll meet you soon, I'll see you next week. And after the money is given, the person is gone. And one even worse, one went all the way, traveled to London to meet the person of his dreams. From a 29-year-old man, it turned out to be in his 70s, from Nigeria. And so it was a major makeover. And but you see, deceitfulness. Satan promised you something, but he gives you another. It can be a financial loss, it can be a romantic loss, but the worst thing to me, it can be the loss of your soul. Unbelief. When you believe something that is wrong, departing from the living God, any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. You get so hardened, yes, I want to do this. Some months ago, one mother came, he said that, Pastor, pray for my son. Have you heard of Armstrongism? Armstrongism is not strong in Singapore. It's mainly in Canada, US, and maybe parts of Australia. In Singapore, we don't have this cult very strongly, but while we were researching in the cults, we came across Armstrongism, and he said that my son came back from the States, and now he believes in Armstrongism. He doesn't come to church with her anymore. And he just got married, and so the wife joined him, and now the children. And they are Christian people. The parents, we know the parents, I don't know the son. And I was having lunch with another pastor in Old Airport Road, just only about a week plus ago. Then somebody walked past. I don't want to mention name. Hey, I know him, he's a leader of a BP church. I say, hi, I haven't met you, but how have you been? Good. Oh, you come back from, yeah, I'm back for a while. I said, good. I come to church, sorry, is it? He kind of, was kind of, no thanks. I'm going to another church. Oh, which church? Well, you know later. So later I spoke to the brother. I met him at the wedding yesterday. He said that pray for my eldest brother. He's now a new creation. He used to be one of our leaders in the BP church, and now he's enjoying. Joseph, he loves the new creation setup and messages, and he's been a BP movement for at least 30 over years. At least since the 80s, I know him. Maybe 40 years. Coming to 40 years. So it blows my mind. How can somebody, a leader of a church who knows theology, and he just switched and he went to the other side? And how do you explain this? It's mind-boggling, but it's true. The deception is so profound. Elders, deacons, even so-called pastors are misled, and they joined and they left. Reform, biblically sound churches, and they join a big mega church for whatever reasons, and we pray for them. Deception is so real, and trickery, deceitfulness of sin. I remember a number of years ago when Reverend Patrick Tan was alive, I received a WhatsApp, and the WhatsApp says from Reverend Tan, I'm now in London, I lost my wallet, I need money because I couldn't pay the hotel. Please send money to this. So I was thinking, what is Reverend Tan doing in London? Because he pastored London before, the New Life Church. So I called Mrs. Ann Tan. I said, Mrs. Ann Tan, are you in London now? She said, no, Jack, we're in Singapore. I said, I just got a WhatsApp that, Reverend Tan is asking for money for. She said, oh dear, be careful, this is a scam. And she straight away, I was not the only one who called her. And later some people called her and she sent a WhatsApp to tell us, please ignore, this is a scam, we're all in Singapore. And actually someone was about to send money. Because, a senior pastor is in distress. Some well-meaning lifer, we must help Reverend Tan. He's in trouble in London. I almost wanted to suggest to Angie we send something. But I decided no, we must check out the facts. We must be discerning. And then Mrs. Ann Tan confirmed. So how come it didn't come from a family member or somebody? It came from a number I don't know, And you see, it can happen to any one of us. The deception is so profound. The deceitfulness of riches. Can you remember the parable of the sower? Did you remember the thorny ground? Did you remember what are the two things that God used to describe the thorny ground? How did the Lord describe the thorny ground? Cares of the world, the deceitfulness of riches. Matthew 13:33. The cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches. These are the two words that the Lord used to describe the thorny ground. The seed fell on the ground and it took root, It actually went into the soil, but the root was not deep. But it began to grow and got choked and it died. And the Lord explained the parable of the sower. He said that the thorny ground are the people who have heard the gospel, and because of the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches, their spiritual life was choked and they left the faith. I was trying to understand, the cares of the world. I'm so bothered, I'm so busy in my work. Don't talk to me about Christ and the word. I've got no time for all this. You know how busy I am. So many things I need to do in my workplace. I'm just caught up in my work. Don't talk to me about God and the Bible and prayer and the word. The cares of the world just overwhelm us. And we have no time for God. I say I'm so caught up with the things of the world. I have no time for Christ. The deceitfulness of riches. So the danger is the money that can get from it is so deceptive. I want more. And I want to go back to the casino, it's so wonderful. I just want more cash. I want more money. And so you get into a trap and you get into a bondage and get yourself into trouble. So what should we do then? What should we do? Turn to Colossians 2:6-8. How should we combat deceitfulness? Well, there's an advice that we need to do something to combat deceitfulness in Colossians 2:7 and 8. What does the Bible warn us against that vain deceit, and what should we do? Rooted and built up in Him, established in the faith, as ye have been taught, abounding therein with thanksgiving. Watch out for this. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of man, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ. So verse 7 is the cure, verse 8 is the danger. So the danger is somebody will spoil you. The idea of spoiling is somebody will carry you away as though you are captive. The word spoil means booty, booty, B-O-O-T-Y. Somebody carry you as though you are booty, Take you away, come, join me. Have some fun, have a drink, have a smoke, and enjoy yourself. Vain deceit. The traditions of man. Oh, I want to study the pentagram and evolution and all this psychology. After the rudiments of the world, the things that come from the world that's opposed to Christ, the things of everlasting life, not from the Word of God. Actually, this has elements to the materialistic teaching of the Gnostics in the first century. So when Paul was writing this, the Gnostics used the elements of the world to construct their faith, you see. So Paul said, be careful, the Colossian church, don't get yourself all messed up with this philosophy of the world and the people from Greece and all these things. What should you do? Rooted, build up, and establish. So while we were officiating the wedding in Malaysia, we went to Jenny Lee's home. Jenny came to our church a number of times. Bought a place in Horizon Hills, and he said, Pastor, come to our place and have some fellowship. have some tea and some soup. So she said, I want to study the Bible, you know. So we gave her something on Jonah. And she said, I'm very free here. I've been reading the Bible. I've been growing my faith. And pray for me and my children, you know. And now my grandchildren also, that they'll be in Christ. So, am I rooted and built up, established in the faith? Yes, I'm a Christian. But don't talk to me about the Bible. I hardly read. And I don't know much about the Word of God. I'm not really a strong Christian. Well, then you are a vulnerable person. Because Satan looks for those who are not grounded and not rooted. And these are the people that's easy to deceive. Someone just told me that there's a fake $50 note going around in Hong Kong. Same serial number. So I don't know how to distinguish. I'm not trained. They say, well, need to find out. At one time, somebody that was changing Miami's notes in Singapore, you know, this Miami's check. I don't know where they changed. And one couple went to Yangon. They were stopped at the airport. I said, why are you carrying fake notes? He said, we didn't know. We just changed it in Singapore. Oh, no. You come to the site. And they were pulled aside and they were put in a room. They were held up for a few days because the authorities thought they were bringing fake notes. But they went to change it. I mean, how do we know, whether you're changing a fake or real, genuine check? But you see, that is how deceptive things can be. We need to know, rooted and built up, established. Are you? If somebody comes and tell you another doctrine, will you join them straight away? If somebody tells you, oh, don't worry, Pastor John Barlow had this experience in Esperance. One day, one couple didn't come to church, so he went and asked them, oh, we missed you last Sunday. And then they said, oh, by the way, we won't be coming anymore. So, oh, is there anything happened in the family? Oh, well, no, we read a book from the US. Somebody wrote an article and published into a book, and they got it. And that article teaches that actually every Christian need not meet on Sunday together. You just stay in your own house and you have your own service. That's all. Church is invented by man. So no need to come to church. You just stay at home and do your own worship. So some people have this concept. I remember Life Church, there used to be a deacon. I met him at a funeral. He doesn't come to Life Church anymore. He and I know the wife's a lawyer, very nice lady, and he runs his own in his home. His Bible, it consists only red words. He said, Jack, don't be deceived by written by men. Paul, Peter, Moses. I only read the words of Jesus. So I saw his Bible, even shorter than the gospel. The gospel take up, left only the red words of Jesus. These are the only true inspired words. Wow, that's you. Think how to reach out to him. I think Daniel knows him. We just pray for him. His entire family is no more in church. They just meet in the home, 3-4 people, and they just do their own things. So, and there's something that we're all burdened about. Now we must look on beyond deception. We must go on beyond the deception, and there are also destructive ways. From deception of words and ways, and also now we have to be rooted and grounded in the Word. And the second thought, one of the wiles of the evil one is they can be destructive. Where do we find that? Verse 14 to 21, we're back to Joshua chapter 9. And here we have a very destructive incident. What do? They attempt to disrupt the vision and the plan of the Israelites to keep themselves separate from the Canaanites in purity and faith. In other words, they will destroy the separation. So in other words, they'll come into and be part of you. So we'll speak of three things. The ability to see clearly was disrupted. The ability to seek counsel was disrupted. And the ability to stay clean was disrupted. So the 3 C's. The ability to see clearly was disrupted. The ability to seek counsel was disrupted. And the ability to stay clean. Where do we get this? Well, they say we come as ambassadors, so don't worry, we're all in the same camp, and we just want to have peace, and everything will be alright. And sometimes you think, why fight? Let's make peace. Let's have a good time. When the ICCC was formed, there was a great ecumenical movement in 1948, and Carl McIntyre rose up and stood against the WCC. And of course today, so many years have passed. Not everybody feels the same about biblical separation. So, oh come on, it's all over now. Everything is all right. Biblical separation is out of fashion. It's irrelevant. Well, the enemy is so effective. And sometimes it blinds our eyes and we can't see, oh yeah, he's right. But I thank God that there's some in Latin America standing firm. They refuse to compromise with the groups that in their country, and the people that come from US and Africa, people that come from Cameroon and Kenya and Peru and Bolivia and Guatemala and other parts, and they are fundamental Presbyterian. Some of them are fundamental Baptist, some of them are independent churches, and they're standing firm. But they're in the minority. We're in the minority. Most of them are of smaller churches. But I thank God there's a faithful remnant. So the enemy tried to disrupt our unity. He also tried to disrupt us from seeking counsel, because in verse 14, did you realize the memory verse is very significant? Why were they deceived? What was the reason? The man took of their victuals and asked not counsel at the mouth of. That's why we chose this verse for memory verse. What was the reason for the deception to be successful? Because of presumption. Because we think it's okay. Now, I give it to Joshua. Joshua was a bit sharp in verse 8. And they said to Joshua, we are the servants. And Joshua said, who are you? From whence come ye? So initially he was a bit cautious. But later, his caution was thrown to the wind. When they come in with all the deception. Even the general also got overwhelmed. And he allowed them in. So sometimes it's sad. I mean, even pastors, we thank God for them, we respect them. But sometimes we also can, Satan put wool over our eyes. Oh, it's okay, no problem. You can come, do what you want. And before that, they're slowly coming by the back door. And then the things change. And before you realize, the cancer is spread. It's just too many people affected. You can't stay there anymore. Then the whole thing turned around, and people, they disrupt the unity of the church. So the enemy can be disruptive. It can disrupt our ability to stay clean. In the book of Deuteronomy, they were told that they had to make no pact, no agreement with the Canaanites. The Lord said, you're not to take their daughters as your wives, you're not to take their sons. You're supposed to fight right through, because they are caught in idolatry and sin and immorality. And the Lord said, separation, not infiltration. Sometimes we like infiltration because we think we are CIA agent. Infiltrate. Don't worry. I joined this church. Don't worry, I'm okay. I remember when I was in Topao Methodist in the 1970s. My friends were there. I stayed in Kim Kiat. So for me to go to Topao Methodist, just 15 minutes. And my sister was there, and everything was going on well. Then one day, I asked the leadership, when they found out about World Council of Churches, I said, were you a member? I said, yes. The Methodist Council, we are a member, and they don't see anything wrong. And one of the leaders don't believe in the full inspiration of the word, and he said the virgin birth is also questionable, that we are not sure whether Christ is truly born of a virgin. And I said, wow, this is really quite serious deviations. I was only 20, 19, 20, I was in the army. I was hearing all this, so I went to search the scriptures, and the more I studied, I just couldn't stay there anymore. And I left. I felt very down because I lost. My friends were there, but we came out and we joined the BB Church in life, and take a stand, and by the grace of God, all these years, and we pray that there will be a clear understanding that the enemy not only is deceptive, the enemy is destructive and can be disruptive, and disrupt the unity of the church, disrupt the stand and the various biblical principles that we should hold on to. And so they come and they say, well, we're just nearby, we have hot provisions, you are your neighbor, and this is for you. And so Joshua was taken in, and Joshua made peace with them in verse 15, and they signed a league. That means they signed a treaty, we will not attack you. And then after they did, in verse 16, it came to pass, they found out that there are neighbors that live next door, that their cities are Gibeon and Chapira and Beruth and Kirjath Jearim, all nearby cities in Canaan. They were not far off people, ambassadors from afar. They are Canaanites, which they're supposed to destroy. And now we've signed the treaty. What to do? And finally, the last thought. The enemy can be defeated. How? How do you do this? 3 C's. The enemy must be confronted. The enemy must be controlled. And the enemy must be contained. So, under defeat, the enemy can be defeated. The enemy must be confronted. Because compromise will bring you deeper into sin. The enemy must be controlled, and the enemy must be contained. We learn this from Joshua, from verse 17 all the way to 27. And we see the last thought in, they said, we found out that these people are nearby, and some of the people are not happy. They actually spoke out and said, they murmured against the princess. You see the disruptive nature of Satan. It creates dissension. It creates unhappiness. In verse 18, why did you sworn and why did you come? Let's attack them and kill them. But then the princess said, we already gave our word. We swear before God we will not take them down in battle. How can we just go back on the word that we make before God? We cannot. We have to honor our word. In some sense, they got themselves, and now it's damage control now. Now you're already committed. You already married a non-Christian. You already got this thing in your house. You're going to have this problem in your company. So, what to do? So now you need to do some damage control. So the enemy has to be confronted. It's not compromised now. Now we need to talk to them. You beguile us. You see the word used by Joshua in verse 22. Wherefore have ye beguiled us, saying that we are very far from you when you dwell among us. Therefore ye are cursed, and shall be none of you be free from being bondmen, and now be hewers and drawers of water and wood for the house of my God. In other words, now Joshua seemed to contain them in one corner, so that they do not spread. They do not influence the rest of the Israelites. They'll be watched over. They'll be vigilant. They'll be involved in a kind of you can say a kind of a so-called workman-slave status, where they'll be forever working for the Israelites. But they cannot destroy them. They do not want them to influence the rest of the tribes. So this is what happens. If the virus has already affected, you just have to face it. But containment is one thing. You've got to get it in a place where it does not spread. And that's how it works. In other words, the enemy has to be confronted and has to be managed. The seriousness of it must not be undermined. We must not undermine the effects of a contagious. It's one thing to catch a virus and you fall sick, but it's another thing to catch the virus of unbelief and sin that leads you to eternal damnation. And people believe the lie of the evil one. In the book of 2 Thessalonians, it says that in the last days, before the coming of the Antichrist, there will be widespread deception. And because Antichrist can do all kinds of miracles and signs and wonders, people will believe them. So-called even Christian people in the short run. That's the word used in Matthew 24. To deceive it were possible, even the elect. So we're trying to understand, what is the Lord trying to say? Can we be deceived? So commentators believe that in the short run, even genuine Christians can be deceived. We are Christians, but we are not that prudent because we don't know the word. So can a true believer be deceived? What the answer is yes. But in the long run, we believe that that true believer, enlightened by the Holy Ghost, will come back to the Lord. But I don't know how long the long run is. In economics, we always say the long run. And one of my economics professors said, in the long run, all of us will be dead one day. So I don't know how long the long run is. But the point is this: the deception can be so profound that even leaders of the church, even so-called people who ought to know better, elders and deacons and preachers and missionaries, and they can be led astray. And in the last days, you see all kinds of compromise and religious accommodation, because the authorities will approve of this and you're pressured, and there will be a time where you need to make a decision whether you want to do is right or what to do what is light. Because what is right may not be what is like, and they don't always agree together. And that will be a very difficult time. But if that ever happens, remember what Joshua did. And Joshua said towards the end, they agreed, in verse 24, surely we will obey you, will be your servants, because the Lord your God is the one who led you out of the land, and we were so afraid for our lives when we heard this. Now therefore we are in your hands, do what is right. So Joshua said, okay, if you agree, we will not slow you, but you go and carry wood and water for the congregation, for the altar of the Lord, even until this day. So when you read Nehemiah, you see the word Gibeonites, reference back to Joshua 9. So when you go all the way to the later part of the historical books, the word Gibeonites are mentioned. So you know where that Gibeonites, how come they're in the temple helping to serve wood and all that? Because of Joshua 9. Because there was an incident that happened, they were deceived, and in the end they make a pact. They make a damage control to say the enemy has to be confronted, the enemy has to be controlled, the enemy has to be contained. Well, what does it mean to us today in application? We are also facing the enemy, and we need to be vigilant. And the way to be vigilant is to put on the full armor of God. I think putting on the mask alone is not enough during this time. We need the entire armor. We need the 6 pieces of the full armor. From the helmet of salvation to the shield of faith, to the sword of the word, to the belt of truth, to the breastplate of righteousness, to the shoes shod with the readiness of the gospel. That's the only way you can protect yourself. The mask alone is only one aspect, and even then, you know that it's not foolproof. Yes, we need to do all that we can, but the spiritual implications to me is more profound than just physical dimensions. There's so much that we can learn from this virus, and don't just be caught up in the physical realm of things. I think there are rich lessons that we can learn from the will of God. Sin spread like a virus, but we don't care. Of course, it has physical implications, so we get a bit more worried. But sin destroys us totally. It destroys us eternally, and it leads us to the depths of hell. And to me, that's frightening. Because remember what Jeremiah said? The heart is deceitful and desperately wicked. Who can know it? And the book of James talks about self-deception. That sometimes we can even deceive ourselves into thinking that this is good, this is okay, but actually it's not right. And this is a real challenge in the last days as Christian people come to consider. And the Bible says, charm is deceitful, beauty is vain, but he that feareth the Lord, this woman shall be praised. And so we need to be grounded and rooted. We need to be prepared for every battle. And the way to do it, remember, the enemy is deceptive. The enemy is destructive, even disruptive. But the enemy can be defeated. Not by you, not by me, but Christ. And dependent on the word, the sword of the word, depending on the will of God, and depending on our alertness and vigilance as a soldier of Christ. Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, we thank Thee for Your word from the book of Joshua. Lord, we confess that many times that we have lost our vigilance. And Lord, we have forgotten to be alert and ready for the wiles of the evil one. Many times we've been deceived into falling into sin. Oh Lord, may Thou forgive us and help us that we may be vigilant again, and that we may rise up, putting on the full armor of God. So Lord, protect us not only against this virus, but against the deadly virus of depravity and sinfulness, of compromise and disobedience, of idolatry, of covetousness and sin. They will not fall into the wiles of the evil one. So evermore protect and preserve Your people, that will be kept pure and separate unto You. It's in Jesus'